Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and over this past week, with the patch 11.1 finally making its way over to the PTR realms, we began to take a look at some of the class revamps arriving to the next seasonal update of the War Within expansion. Not only is this update doing some really wild things when it comes to class tier sets, which is going to change the way our classes are going to play, but also there's a ton of major revamps on the horizon. One of the classes, however, that's getting probably some of the least amount of changes is Warlock, besides Rogues, which is getting like no changes at all whatsoever right now. But Warlock, even though they're getting just a few changes, but with a new set of tier sets that are a lot more interactive and impactful, which is starting to put this class on many people's radar right now over in the PTR. We should note that by no means is the PTR tuning for classes is final, so maybe there are some over-tuned elements for Warlocks as well as some of the other classes out there, but right now Warlocks are looking really solid, and I'll look at it like a very standout option with some of the revamps coming along their way. And I wanted to really dive deep into some of all the Warlock changes, but also the tier sets and how it's going to shape the playstyle of this class going forward. As always, if you want to see more updates about more class changes within patch 11.1, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. Before we get into the actual Warlock revamp, look at the set. It looks amazing. A lot of you guys commented that you've been enjoying the fact that they're bringing back class sets this time around. Some players kind of wanted a little bit more of this goblin theme for a goblin raid, a goblin season, but bring in proper classes that look like each class silhouette. I'm a big fan of the Warlock one in particular. A lot of them do look good, but the Warlock is so great with the shoulders and even the face mask. It has his teeth, has this like leathery face thing, and the teeth individually move, which is super unsettling, but like in the best way possible. Besides the actual set, the tier set bonuses for Warlocks are also actually kind of interesting. I will go over them because that is a pretty big portion of the overall changes coming to Warlock, but there's just a couple other things that we could take a look at as well. In terms of general changes, there's not a lot for Warlocks. In terms of the general talent tree, it's staying roughly the same. The only thing that's changed about the Warlock general talent tree is the ability of Drain of Life, which is gaining more healing. Roughly, damage of the ability is increased by 100%, and the Drain Life healing is 500% of that damage. So the more damage it does, the more healing it does. So now the ability does have a little bit better healing factor, which is solid. I mean, as a Warlock, you don't necessarily have, outside of major cooldowns, you don't really have any other ways to restore your health. Doesn't mean you're not tanky already as a class. You're generally fairly durable, but extra healing on Drain Life, especially with how mana expensive that ability is solid, but also this makes it a much better ability to use within PvP as well. So overall, generally a technically survivability increase for Warlocks, even though you're most likely not going to be using it as your first set of defense. You're probably going to be using it when everything else has already been expanded. As for the Spec of Affliction, we are not really seeing too many gameplay changes, but we are seeing even more survivability improvements. They found out that not a lot of Warlocks were utilizing the Soul Rot Drain Life combination. Well, because you have to press Drain Life to do so, but also you no longer have supporting talents that work to buff up Drain Life to make it a solid damaging abilities from like back in Shadowlands. Soul Rot has always had this interaction where once you apply it, every target that's afflicted by Soul Rot can be drained from. So Drain will AoE multiple targets, but in most cases, Warlocks would rather not drain as their globals. They'd rather press any other button to deal damage. So they bake the draining component as part of Soul Rot automatically. So 50% of all damage that Soul Rot does now automatically heals the Warlock passively. And when testing this out in dungeons, especially when you take in a big brutal bit of damage, even though Soul Rot doesn't last for long, it has impactful enough healing within dungeons. I did feel like I'm fairly survivable, whether I'm hitting a single target, whether I'm hitting multiple targets with it. So this actually did feel kind of nice. Overall, improving Warlock survivability further, making this class even more tanky. The tier set for Affliction Warlock is something I would love to really dive into because it's very interesting, but it doesn't quite work. The Warlock class is going to work off of the playstyle of Jackpot, where randomly spells and abilities can activate an effect of Jackpot, which has a unique element for every single one of the specs. For Affliction, Jackpot grants you a 12% haste. Casting Dark Glare always procs a Jackpot. On top of it, whenever you hit your Jackpot, and this mechanic would have been amazing to test, but it's not quite available right now, hitting a Jackpot also increases the damage of your UA by 50%. Also, that UA will spread to up to 3 nearby targets within 40 yards for 17 seconds, which would have been amazing to try this in dungeons and some raid testing for huge AoE to just multi-dot multiple enemies together, because UA is a huge portion of your overall damage, or a decent bit compared to some of your other dot-based abilities, but it doesn't work right now. Would have loved to see it, but even if you force proc UA with the Dark Glare, unless they fixed it, yeah, you got the jackpot. But I'm not seeing UA proccing to multiple targets. I'm not seeing it AoE or anything like that. So I'm assuming it just does not work at the moment. This would have been amazing to try right now because lots of players are doing dungeons, and I feel like Affliction might have been very, very solid there. I think this would be really good, especially since it has a 40-yard range. So in like a council fight, cleave fight, this would be amazing for your opener. I am also hoping that when you press Dark Glare, those UAs are also empowered by that Dark Glare. We don't really know how that functionality works. I'm assuming it should extend those UAs, or those UAs maybe should be extended based on your primary UA. If that is the fact, then if that's how it works, then I think it's fine. But if it doesn't extend it whatsoever, I think that would be unfortunate. Was this functional? I think this would be worth testing. I think this could be very interesting too, and it will make a lot of those UA-based talents, I think, a lot stronger. Because Jackpot can proc outside of your major cooldowns. This is just a guarantee with your Dark Glare, but it can proc outside of your major CDs as well. So if you can get regular procs of Jackpot, then you could have a lot of UA damage and a lot of that cleave spread pressure, which would be amazing for Affliction Warlocks going forward. The other two specs of Warlock, however, can be tested, and there's actually quite a few interesting components behind some of their changes as well, starting with the spec of Demonology. For Demonology, we don't have too many crazy changes within your class talent tree, but we do have some improvements even though we're not talented into them just yet. They wanted to update some interactions with the ability of Doom specifically. So Doom has been updated, so now whenever your Demon Bolt consumes a demonic core, it inflicts Doom upon the target. But instead of having your demonic core procs and instacast Demon Bolts proccing you, Doom... Actually, I need to sacrifice one of my pets to proc Doom on the target, don't I? Oh wait, I'm not even talented into it. I guess it doesn't really matter, but yeah, so they changed this one where instead of having to get more Demon Bolts procs in order to cut down the duration of your Doom, now you can do it more consistently with Hound of Goldans instead. So just by spamming Hound of Goldans, you can further reduce the duration of that Doom a lot more consistently. This feels a lot better to play into, honestly, at least in my opinion, because you are constantly sending out Hound of Goldans fairly regularly. This allows Doom to constantly be reduced because you're not getting nearly as many procs of instacast Demon Bolts because of the changes they made within the War Within launch. So this is a nice change overall that does make the playstyle for Doom a little bit better, even though it was fairly popular even before this. With the talent of Doom Eternal, they changed this one a little bit as well. They redesigned it to where when Doom expires, you have a 30% chance to generate a demonic core. So they wanted to kind of allow Demonology Warlocks to have more consistency with Doom, but they still wanted for Doom to have an interaction between your demonic core. So now there's a chance that it could potentially proc you more instacast Demon Bolts, and that could potentially synergize with the rest of your kit as well, which I think is really, really good to see. They also changed up Demonic Calling. No, that's Expendables. Same icon. Demonic Calling, so it has a higher chance to proc instant cast, free of cost, Dreadstalkers whenever you Shadow Bolt or Demon Bolt the target. This one is very noticeable. I feel like just about every single time I summon my Demon Dogs within the dungeons, I usually have Demonic Calling proc up at all times. This just makes the playstyle a little bit better for Demonology, so you're not just spending the entire time standing still, casting, and get all your pets up and running fairly regularly. Now, the biggest change for Demonology Warlocks has to be with their tier set, which really flips the playstyle on its head, and I'm a big fan of it, at least what they got working with so far. So their tier set plays around summoning more demons, which is my favorite. I feel like the more demons they could give to Demonology, the better. Between the Diabolus demons that you can summon, the Dreadstalkers, the Imps, the main Felguard and how you can empower it, second Felguard, the Pact of Origin, you can get a Doom Guard in there, you got yourself the Vile Fiend, and then how you can modify each and every one of your pets. You can further buff your Felguard to be more effective, you can further buff your Doggers to be more effective, you can further buff your, I guess you can't really do too much with your Doom Guard, at least as of this moment. You can buff your Imps, you can buff your Vile Fiend to turn him into a Gloomhound or a Charhound, and I'm a big fan of those kind of playstyles, how you can modify and really invest heavily into some of your demons as a Demonology Warlock. And I feel like you don't really get to fully invest into like an all-in build. Like Warlocks usually will invest a little bit of points into Dreadstalkers, but they won't go completely all the way. Unless there's other talents or abilities that support it, you won't go into Dread Calling to further empower your Dreadstalkers. You usually don't go into Flame Touch unless you have some kind of a crit synergy with your Dreadstalker specifically. So it's really difficult to sometimes justify fully investing into a demon. Instead, you'll buff up your entire army of demons little by little, which is perfectly fine as well. But they're actually changing this a little bit with the tier set that allows them to fully invest into a demon dog playstyle. Their jackpot mechanic, which is similar to that of Affliction, allows them to proc a extra Dreadstalker at 165% effectiveness. Summoning a tyrant always casts a jackpot. And you can actually see exactly what this pet looks like when you summon it. And it looks kind of like a big version of your other demon dogs, but it's just a massive version. It's the mount version from Legion. So you see they look very, very similar, but this one is a lot bigger. It is armored. It looks amazing, and it hits really, really, really hard. Now, this extra pet that you get to summon is a proper Dreadstalker. So all talents that empower your Dreadstalkers where... Hold on a second. Every single talent that interacts with your Dreadstalkers in any way can also be further amplified, or can also double up for this extra additional pet that you get to summon. So by buffing your Dreadstalkers, you also buff up this bonus pet that you get a guarantee of summon whenever you summon a Tyrant, but also you get a decent bit of procs of this thing as well. Also, Demonology Warlocks turn into Beastmaster Hunter. Kind of like Beastmaster Hunters can get their pets to kill command, to sec their target, to bite at them instantly. Casting a Handle Gul'dans now causes all active Dreadstalkers, even this bonus summon one, to cast Dread Bite at 50% effectiveness. This damage is increased by 10% for each Soul Shard spanned by Hand of Gul'dan. So now what you have a gameplay loop of trying to summon up your Dreadstalkers in order to get them up and running, and then casting as many Hand of Gul'dans as you can in order to get your pets to bite down at the target. So now you have this kill command demonology playstyle afloat here that can synergize through a variety of different abilities, because even the Demon Bite or Dread Bite ability can be further modified. Dreadlash can give it big AoE damage, causing it to deal additional damage. They can also auto attack on their own when they pop it. You can also further empower those pets with Dread Calling to make them even stronger as you cast Hand of Gul'dans for your next set of pets, which your additional summon also gets benefit from Dread Calling. You can go into Houndmaster's Gambit, so while Dreadstalkers and a Vile Fiend are active, Dreadstalkers are more effective, and then those Dreadstalkers can even get faster attack speed since you're buffing them up anyway, and then more critical strike chance, so it makes them even more effective. So it really fully allows you to invest into a full-on Dreadstalker playstyle, so you can have these massive puppy dogs out and about in the battlefield just attacking and savaging your foes for you. It looks amazing, and it feels pretty awesome too, especially we can get all those pets up and running all at once, the big one as well as the smaller Dreadstalkers as well. And then when you get to combine it together into a big Tyrant setup, then you're setting up for a massive burst combo with all of those pets as your dogs bite down onto a target, doing additional damage. The Dreadstalker, the greater one, also does a decent bit of damage all on their own. For the most part, I've noticed a good portion of my damage comes from the Dread Bite of my normal Dreadstalkers, as well as auto attacks, but mostly from the bites. Especially in the AoE, it seems like the base Dreadstalkers are a little bit more effective. The greater Dreadstalker starts to become really, really good if they can get any kind of big Dread Calling procs, or if they can get a lot of uptime with the random jackpot procs, or better in pure single target. That's where that pet seems to perform the best in. But I'm a big fan of this because it allows Demonology Warlocks to take better control, in a way, of their pets, commanding them to bite down on the target, doing a ton of AoE damage, which synergizes with Hand of Gul'dan and can synergize with things like Shadow Touch, because this wicked maw bite from your pets and additional demons also can buff up all your demon damage as well. I'm just a big fan of it altogether. Then you have Wicked Maw, which with Dread Bite also increases the Shadow Flame damage enemies take as well. So it just ends up creating a really cool feedback loop of you mostly trying to empower those Dreadstalkers for PvE content. This is a really good tier set, in my opinion, for PvE, when you can set up those demons, but I imagine this would be a little bit harder to pull off within PvP, because casting Hand of Gul'dans is possible, but it means that Demonology Warlocks are going to be kind of stuck in place, casting more than insta-casting with your demon bolts and focusing on a more insta-casting mobile playstyle. But still, whenever those Dreadstalkers get a big bite down, and even just summoning up the big pet in particular, all that together can be quite an effective setup. And I'm a huge fan of this tier set so far. I'm really in love with the demonology. I think it's super creative, and it does a ton of damage in AoE, because these dogs rip things apart when you have so many enemies packed together. And if in dungeons, if players are going to be going into bigger AoE pools as you push in higher end dungeons, I think demonology, if it stays a relatively similar tuning, could potentially shine going forward. Again, this is PTR, so nothing is by no means final. All these numbers could potentially be nerfed to the ground tomorrow, for all we know. But what they got going so far, it gets me really excited to pick up demonology all over again. Though you shouldn't take destruction out of the equation either. Both demonology and destruction are really sharing a lot of this hype that I have for this class for the patch 11.1. Mostly not, well, partially from some of the changes that Destra's gotten, because they actually gotten a decent bit of changes from Destra. They wanted to give you an alternate way to use some of your well-known talents as well as abilities, like your channel Demon Fire. Some players like it, others not really, because it causes the Warlock to stand still in place. But what if they added a more passive version of this ability? Also, same thing with your Dimensional Rift. Not many people outside of PvP use this ability, but what if they found a way to passively apply it as part of your rotation so you could spawn rifts on the go? So that's essentially what they did for the most part as part of the Destruction Warlock gameplay. So we have, for your Demon Bolts, we have Demon Fire Infusion. Periodic damage from your Immolate has a 4% chance to fire a Demon Fire Bolt at a target at 100% effectiveness. Incinerate has a 25% chance to fire a Demon Fire Bolt at 100% effectiveness. So if you were to spread all the dots on multiple targets, cast a couple Incinerates, there's a good chance that you'll notice that we're firing off some Demon Bolts fairly regularly. I am not sure if this is bugged or if this is meant to be firing off as regularly as it is, but as of right now, this does a significant bit of damage for our Warlocks. And it's a huge portion of your damage is just channeled Demon Fire, especially in large AoE situations. It helps out if you can stand still and spam Incinerates, because you are getting more regular procs, but even just with the dots of Wither or Immolation, all of those things do end up doing a significant bit of overall damage. Now, the other one is going to be the Dimensional Rift, which is the Dimensional Ripper. Periodic damage with Wither or Immolate has a 5% chance to open up a Dimensional Rift. This one I got to test out in dungeons, but it doesn't seem to be nearly as effective as the Demon Bolt one. Technically, you could bind it together with things like Unstable Rifts, where the bolts from the rifts now deal a portion of that damage to all enemies with fire damage, which does increase its AoE capabilities, but I felt like maybe the proc rate of Dimensional Ripper is way too low. I wasn't really impressed with its damage overall. So I wanted to see if maybe just my chance for RNG was just super low and I just didn't get a lot of value out of it when I tried this playstyle myself. Turns out nobody else is playing Dimensional Ripper. I haven't seen a single log so far, and I tried to look through them as careful as I could, but I didn't see any logs of players running Dimensional Ripper at all. The Demon Fire playstyle is quite popular, and it seems to be contributing quite a significant bit of overall destruction damage, but the actual portal's passive not getting a lot of play. And it's probably because the proc rate is way too low. Maybe if it had the same interaction, like Incinerate has a higher chance to proc it, maybe we could see it potentially in the future. But yeah, as of right now, it doesn't seem to be as effective, but I like the idea, because otherwise I don't think a lot of Destra Warlocks would want to use Dimensional Rift as an ability. A lot of Warlocks generally stay away from it unless you highly need mobility, and at that point you're probably playing Affliction, or if you're just playing PvP, where Destruction Warlocks would actually utilize it. It's just not preferred within raids or dungeons. Besides this, however, Destruction does see even more changes as well. Havoc's duration is being increased to 15 seconds, up from 12, a slight change there, but also Mayhem, if you prefer that playstyle, will have a higher proc rate. Instead of a 25% chance to proc, now it's 35%, and that one I kind of noticed actually. I do see my Mayhem Havocs procking a lot more regularly than I'm used to, so that is very nice. Overall, though, with Destruction, we also have a tier set that combines with this tier set as well. Special abilities have a chance to hit Jackpot that fires a flurry of 14 Demon Fire Bolts at 200% effectiveness, so you have even more passive Demon Fire Bolts to fully invest into. Casting Summon Infernal always hits a Jackpot. And hitting a Jackpot increases your Mastery by 3%, and your spells gain maximum benefit from Mastery energies for 10 seconds. This one is incredibly good, because whenever it does proc, it basically allows you Mastery, which has a bit of like a floaty effect to it, where your spells have a chance between 30% or like up to 60% depending on your mastery to do additional damage. So the floor is 30, but it can get additional up to 30, but that number fluctuates randomly, which is part of the chaos of Destruction Warlock. But when you get the proc of your mastery, when you get the actual effect of Jackpot, you get full value of, what is it, 67% mastery increase for all of your abilities guaranteed. So you don't have the fluctuation anymore for a short moment. It just hits its cap instantly. This allows Destruction to take control of their mastery to fully juice up all of their damage and abilities and really make those infernal windows extremely powerful. It's a very strong tier set in my opinion, and the fact that you can proc in between does mean you're probably going to want to try to see if you can track it in order to maybe bank up some resources and then check out a bunch of Chaos Bolts of the target as much as you can when it does proc. This does make me think, though, if the talent of Chaos Incarnate may actually be taking a bit of a backseat with this change. With Chaos Incarnate, you basically raise the floor of your abilities in terms of being buffed by a mastery to at least be 70% of the maximum benefit. So it kind of raises the floor up a little bit in order to give you a little more consistency with your mastery. But if you can literally raise that floor all the way up to the ceiling during those jackpots, I wonder if Chaos Incarnate is going to see a little bit less play. But Destro in particular feels really good to play. Having that guaranteed burst is incredible. And the damage this spec can do right now, it seems a little broken, but maybe there's something that's causing it to do more damage than normal. I'm not, like I said, that in detail when it comes to data mining all of the Warlock changes in particular. So maybe something right now is causing them to do more damage than anything, but it seems like they're a fairly popular choice in PTR right now, getting quite a bit of play over in the Mythic Plus Keystones. And whenever you do have a Destro Warlock that fully sets up a big burst combo, their damage does seem to really spike up fairly high, fairly consistently, which seems like a really good thing, and potentially might mean that Warlock going forward for 11.1, if it stays relatively to where it's at right now and doesn't see some crazy nerfs, might potentially be a solid choice for 11.1, even as an old going forward. Though, like I said, this is PTR. Tuning is by no means final. Good chance that a lot of these changes are going to happen over these next weeks. Tuning is going to happen towards the tail end of the patch updates for PTR anyway. But right now, it does seem like Destruction and Demonology are looking quite healthy, and hopefully the Affliction Warlock tier set, once it's functional, fully lives up to all expectations. But as always though, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys did enjoy this video update. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community where we're posting even more updates when it comes to 11.1 PTR updates. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.